Hey everyone. So I was thinking today, like most people think that preparedness is about stockpiling supplies, but the truth is the most important thing you can prepare isn't a supply at all. So let me ask you something for a moment. When the last big disruption happened, think back 2020, and when stores were emptying out and travel stopped, did you stop and think for a second? Like, how prepared am I? Really? Because there are moments in history when life changes slowly, and then there are moments when everything shifts almost overnight. And most people remember one of those moments very clearly. I do. People were told to stay home. Travel stopped. And for those who didn't comply, the pressure to fall in line became very real. And for a lot of people, including myself, that was the moment that I realized just how quickly things can change. Not slowly, not gradually, but it was overnight. And when moments like that happen, they reveal something most of us don't think about normal times or during normal times. It was a big wake-up call for me. Like, how much of our daily lives depend on systems that we simply assume will always work? Electricity, supply chains, transportations, communication, your smartphone, the internet. Most of us rarely stop to think about it, right? Because these systems usually run quietly in the background of everyday life. But it's interesting to look back at the lockdown period for a moment, because even during that disruption, most people, they still had electricity. Stores were limited, but they were still there, the big box stores, right? Not the little guys, but the big box stores. Transportation was restricted for some, but it still existed for those who complied. And maybe most importantly, people still had their internet, their smartphones, and the ability to communicate. So now imagine a situation where some of those systems aren't available. No internet, no smartphone, no easy communication. And at first, that might sound inconvenient, maybe even something like people joke about, right? But when you really think about it, those systems support almost everything we rely on day to day. And if they were suddenly unavailable, even for a short period of time, the situation could become very serious very quickly. And that's why preparedness, it is not about panic. It is about understanding how much we rely on these systems and making sure that we have the ability to function if one or more of them suddenly isn't there. I didn't have access to some conveniences for a while. And a lot of you didn't either. And when those systems are running smoothly, right, feel stable. But when even one part of that system gets disrupted, the ripple effects can spread much faster than people expect. The stores, they could empty out, travel will stop, the basic services slow down, and suddenly people begin asking questions they never thought about before. What would I do if this lasted longer? What would I do if things didn't go back to normal right away? But in a moment, okay, I want to talk about something even more important, because the one thing that actually makes preparedness work when systems start to fail is that realization is what has quietly pushed millions of people to start thinking differently about preparedness. And it is not hard to see why, because people are feeling pressure right now. Costs are rising, jobs feel less certain, families are stretched thin. And a lot of people are realizing that the systems that they depend on may not always be stable as they once believed. But here is the important part. Preparedness, it does not have to start with something extreme. In fact, most real preparedness starts with very simple things, learning practical skills. We need to get back to learning practical skills. We need to keep a little extra food on hand, and we need to understand how these systems around us actually work, because the most important realization many people are coming to is this: preparedness works best when it is shared. And people are starting to realize something very important. We need community again. And I'm going to digress for a second, because when you go back to 2020, what was the pattern? They wanted us siloed, isolated. Do not talk to your neighbor. Do not socialize with your family. Keep 6 feet apart. I mean, really. Okay, so I'm happy to see this happening. People, we need community again. And I can't stress it enough, because preparedness has never really been doing everything alone. It's about people with different skills working together, sharing knowledge, helping one another, supporting each other when things become uncertain. No single person knows everything, but communities, they can know a lot. And one person might understand gardening. My mother-in-law, she understood gardening. My dad too. He is a green thumb. Another understands mechanics. Another understands medical skills, communications, or security. And when those skills come together, something powerful happens. Confidence grows, knowledge spreads, and uncertainty becomes a lot less intimidating. And here's the part that matters most, because none of it needs to be done alone. Because preparation, it does not have to be isolated. I'm going to say this, the system, it wants you isolated. It does not want you building communities. It does not want you having confidence. It does not want you thriving off of the system. Preparation works better when it's shared. And that is a big reason we built preppingcommunities.com. Once the pandemic was over, and it was a few years later and life was back to normal, we were talking one day and we were like, we came up with this and we were chatting, and I'll put another video about this one day, how it came about. But we were like, we're going to build a platform where people can find their people, find their tribe, not as a panic site, not as a doom platform, but as a place for people who think this way. People who care about being steady, informed, lowering their stress because they don't need to rely on that system, and building resilience before it's forced on them. On the platform, you will find local groups forming, daily discussions, events near you, training opportunities, thousands of knowledge-based posts, and Prepper Watch tracking developments without hype. It's just people building something steady together. And Prepping Communities, we built it to help you find your people and build your tribe. And right now, more than ever, I truly believe it's time to start getting back to the basics, strong families, real skills, and communities that support one another. Because when people come together, uncertainty becomes a lot less intimidating. And that's what we need. We need to remove ourselves as far away from the system as possible, build our community, build our tribe. It's so important. If this kind of steady, grounded conversation resonates with you, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell. We are building something steady here, and it does help the channel grow. And most importantly, it helps get this information out to the people who need it the most, because we don't want anybody to be alone. And I would love to hear from you. What is one skill or step that you're working on right now to become more self-reliant? Please share it in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to get started, because the real question isn't just how prepared we are today, but maybe the real question is, what kind of future are we helping build right now for future generations? And we just don't want people to face uncertainty alone. So we want to build something where communities come together and support each other when things get difficult. And that choice starts with the steps we take today. And it's one that we all get to make. So please join preppingcommunities.com today. Membership is free. Find your people, start connecting, preparing, and sharing. I hope I will see you on the platform. And thanks for spending, I see this is like 8 minutes. Thanks for spending some time with me today.